Jogo, Mahito, Ryomen Sukuna, Rika, and many more. Each and every one of these curses in the series possess destructive curse techniques that can take down the most powerful of opponents in a single strike, whether it's the deformation of the body, slicing opponents down to chunks, or burning everything to ash. A curse's power allows for the absolute destruction of whoever is unlucky enough to cross their path. However, in a world where individuals rely on their unique abilities to win a battle, the very idea that someone could be immune to all they have to offer is a terrifying thought. A being like this can not only shrug off your powers like they're nothing, but can easily overpower you with terrifying speed and strength. This being is of course Mahoraga, the strongest shikigami within the prized 10 Shadows technique. Mahoraga not only possesses strength, durability, and speed that surpasses most characters within the verse, but also possesses the power to adapt to any curse technique within the series, making him an absolutely unstoppable force who very few characters can hope to overcome. With this fact in mind, which character in the series could possibly take this shikigami on, or are they hopeless to be soloed by this destructive force? The 8-handled sword Divergent Sila Divine General Mahoraga's signature ability is the power to adapt to any and all phenomena. How exactly does this work? Well, let's ask the man or woman themselves. So, how does your ability work? Thanks, that was completely unhelpful. Well, in order for the adaptation to activate, it must experience the effects of a curse technique, whether through direct or indirect contact, like attacks. Once an attack makes contact with Mahoraga, the Dharma Chakra wheel on its back will turn, indicating that it has adapted, making it immune to that technique in some way. If you were to fight Mahoraga with an incredibly complex power, like a limitless curse technique, that won't matter. Once Mahoraga adapts to one aspect of the technique, it will passively adapt to the other aspects over time. And as process increases, the more it gets hit by a technique. The way Mahoraga adapts to a technique changes depending on who it faces. Sukuna, for example, has the curse technique of Cleave and Dismantle, invisible slashing techniques that obliterate and cut everything in their path. When Mahoraga was hit by this technique, the way it adapted was being able to see the slashing technique and deflecting them, taking away its biggest advantage of being invisible. Mahoraga also adapted to Dismantle a second time by being able to heal the instant the slashes make contact with his body. This is to the point where even Malevolent Shrine, which atomizes matter, was unable to fully defeat it. Mahoraga can adapt to your technique several times the more it experiences it, so the more it gets hit by a technique, the more the wheel turns, which results in different adaptations. At a certain point, the adaptation can become so potent that technique becomes outright useless. For example, Mahoraga's first adaptation against Gojo was being able to instantly dispel his domain after it had taken the full brunt of Unlimited Void once. Its second adaptation was changing the nature of its curse energy in order to bypass Gojo's infinity. The third adaptation, however, is the most dangerous of all. Mahoraga basically gained the ability to cut existence itself, which would slash everything, including space, which Gojo existed within. If the adaptation can scale to the world and existence itself, there's no telling how powerful Mahoraga can get. The adaptation basically allows Mahoraga to not just adapt to phenomena, but also manifest any phenomena with its own cursed energy in order to defeat a foe. Essentially, Mahoraga's adaptation allows it to develop the perfect counter to your abilities, no matter how complex or destructive it may be. This adaptation is powerful, but the shikigami becomes even more deadly with its physical stats. In terms of speed and strength, Mahoraga directly scales to a 15-finger Sukuna. He was able to travel several CD blocks in an instant and catch Sukuna off guard. Even Gojo on 2 separate occasions was speed blitzed before he could even react. Remember, Gojo is the fastest sorcerer alive, with a supercomputer for eyes, and even he couldn't react to Mahoraga's speed. One casual swipe from Mahoraga was also able to send Sukuna flying through several meters through multiple buildings. Mahoraga's durability is also immense, showcased when he tanked Sukuna's Dismantle move before he even adapted to the technique. However, it's been stated that Gojo's Red could destroy it in one shot, but with Mahoraga's durability combined with his adaptation to Limitless, even Red would be shrugged off. The only way to defeat Mahoraga is to one-shot it with an attack it hasn't adapted to. I'll be honest, every curse in the series is getting one-shotted by Mahoraga, whether it be grade 2s, grade 1s, special grades, or even the disaster curses. This is due to the sword implanted on Mahoraga's hand, the Sword of Extermination. As stated by Sukuna, the sword is imbued with positive curse energy, and as we've seen in the past, positive curse energy destroys a curse almost immediately. Even someone as powerful as Sukuna has stated that if he was a curse, he probably would have been killed on contact. So Jogo, Mahito, Dagon, Hanami, the finger bearers, all of them, they wouldn't even survive getting scratched by the blade. And I mean, I can't see any curse in the series being able to dodge getting hit by the sword either. Remember, Mahoraga's speed is comparable to a 15-finger Sukuna and Gojo, two characters who on many occasions have speed blitzed and bullied Jogo, who was fast enough to blitz many high-tier sorcerers like Nanami and Albedo. Jogo has been implied to be the strongest of the disaster curses, and could probably defeat a good chunk of the verse by himself. If Sukuna and Gojo can absolutely demolish Jogo in speed, and Mahoraga is comparable to both of them in speed, then I'm sorry, but every curse in the series has no hope of keeping up with this prized shikigami. This also applies to any grade 1 or below sorcerers we've seen in the series, like Nobara, Panda, Inumaki, Yuji, Gakuganji, etc. Each and every one of these sorcerers lack the speed feats to properly react and counter the speed of this force of nature. Despite how powerful their techniques are, if they can't keep up with Mahoraga's speed, it's not even worth bringing them up. This paired with Mahoraga's strength probably means most sorcerers will simply explode from a light tap of Mahoraga's fist. Characters I could maybe see keeping up with Mahoraga is an awakened Maki and Toji, due to their vast speed and strength, being capable of reacting to attacks moving at Mach 3 and higher. However, there's one big issue. Toji and Maki will probably still get speed blitzed by Gojo and Sukuna, as seen when Teen Gojo casually dodged all of Toji's lethal blows, and this version of Gojo is vastly weaker to his adult version. If a nerfed version of Gojo can outmatch Toji in speed, then I doubt they'd survive an encounter with Mahoraga, who again is comparable to them in speed. Toji was able to completely blitz and decimate the special grade Spirit Dagon within a few seconds, who was so durable that Nanami and Albedo could barely put a scratch on it. So, if Dagon scales above Albedo and Nanami, and Toji immensely scales above Dagon, who got casually killed by an awakened Teen Gojo, who's likely not even close to Mahoraga in strength, then that just puts into perspective just how much stronger Mahoraga is compared to many low, high, and mid-tier sorcerers. I think you get it by now. Mahoraga absolutely claps and speed blitzes most sorcerers and wouldn't even feel the need to adapt. But what if it gets attacked by certain curse techniques? How would it adapt to them and render them completely worthless? Starting with techniques that buff or complement more up-close fighters, it's doubtful that abilities like Nanami's ratio technique would even put a dent on Mahoraga, due to the shikigami tanking more powerful attacks. Even if the shikigami was damaged, it will quickly heal and adapt to the technique, which would likely revolve around increasing its durability to a higher degree. Boogie Woogie is Toto's prize curse technique, and its greatest advantage and asset is the ability to disorient foes by switching the places of people and objects with a simple clap. Now normally this technique would be highly confusing to most opponents, but once Mahoraga adapts, that would allow it to precisely know what Boogie Woogie will swap with, and where Toto will end up next, allowing the shikigami to intercept Toto every single time. Yuki Tsukumo is the first sorcerer on this list who has the capacity to defeat Mahoraga. Her technique Star Rage has the ability to add virtual mass without the drawbacks of her weight being increased as well. This ability allows Yuki to massively increase her strength, allowing her to send people flying or obliterating grade 1 to special grade level curses in one hit, all without losing any speed. But this isn't why she can defeat Mahoraga. Her most important attribute is her immunity to concepts and concept manipulation. Her ability of adding virtual mass becomes so big and overwhelming that any concept that is used on her or attempts to affect her will be overwhelmed and crushed by the virtual mass she creates. Remember, the mass she generates is enough to create a black hole the size of a small building. Creating a black hole of that size requires something as big as the moon to manifest, and this was a nerf version of the black hole, so Yuki can add virtual mass on par with the mass of a small planet if she wanted to. Mahoraga's adaptation is clearly concept-based, as it can adapt to many phenomena by creating phenomena, but if it tried to adapt to Yuki's technique, it's possible Yuki's virtual mass will be so overwhelming that Mahoraga would be unable to. Yuki's special grade level speed, reaction time, and likely planetary strength is fully capable of one-shotting the shikigami. Curse spirit manipulation probably wouldn't stand a chance. Theoretically, every individual curse will be a new threat for Mahoraga to adapt to. However, Mahoraga adapts to the technique itself. The curses are just one aspect of the technique. So what would most likely happen is that Mahoraga would simply adapt to curse spirit manipulation itself, meaning it will likely adapt to every curse that exists within the technique. Yuta and Rika will be the most formidable duo for the shikigami to battle. Yuta would overwhelm it with multiple curse techniques, never allowing it to adapt. However, Yuta would need to defeat it within 5 minutes of its technique's activation, or else he'd be screwed, and Mahoraga would simply one-shot Rika with a sword of extermination. Now, there are 2 additional curse techniques that could potentially one-shot Mahoraga. Jacob's Ladder and Idle Transfiguration can both obliterate a curse or sorcerer in an instant. One has the power to nullify with a powerful AoE attack, which not even a 15-figure Sukuna could defeat, and the other can change the shape of one's soul, turning them into a grotesque monstrosity in an instant. Mahoraga's sword relies on surviving an attack in order to adapt, but that won't really matter if the technique kills it before it gets a chance to adapt. However, it's been established that the Idle Transfiguration doesn't always kill its opponents, depending on what Mahito does. If Mahito decides to keep Mahoraga alive after transfiguring it, the shikigami would adapt to the technique, undo its effects, and be immune to it from now on. The same can't be said about Jacob's Ladder, because of its incredibly high damage, large area of effect, and ability to nullify curse techniques, shutting off the Dharma Chakra's adaptation ability. An attack from Angel will likely be unavoidable, and unlike with Megami, Angel wouldn't hesitate to finish the job. Urame and Kashimo both have elemental-based curse techniques, which has the capacity to one-shot their enemies. However, both of them don't always get a killing blow, especially against foes with comparable or greater speed and strength. And because of the simplicity of their techniques, adapting would be incredibly simple for Mahoraga, and then he'd have an easy time demolishing both of them. Mahoraga's real test will be against Domain Expansions, the strongest attacks in the series. However, despite their danger, dealing with them would be no problem for Mahoraga. And because the Shikigami can adapt after experiencing an attack once, it will only take one attack to instantly adapt and then instantly destroy a domain. Either that, or it will just tank the sure hit, like it did against Malevolent Shrine, or it would be completely immune to a domain's effects, like Unlimited Void. The only domain I could see working is Higuruma's, since his rule of no violence permitted will prevent the Shikigami from hitting him. So, can Mahoraga solo the entire JJK universe? Well, 95% of it. While there are a handful of curse techniques and individuals that can beat it, the Shikigami's immense amount of strength, speed, and ability to adapt allows it to speed blitz and demolish most sorcerers in the verse, making it a force to be reckoned with. It's no wonder the King of Curses viewed it as an essential asset to his plans.